Hi everyone, Michael here with Plant It All. Decided to take a little break, we'll walk down by the river, and it's a nice spot to intro the next episode. So, we've got our water supply done, we've got our drain done, it's time for the manifold. So this is the bit of piping that connects your monitoring and your supply system for pH and nutrients to the rest of your grow. I found some cheaper parts, which is nice because the last time I built one of these, those banjo parts have a tendency to add up to quite a bit. So let's take a look at it. This is going to be a quick one. Want to keep it as a reference for folks, but this is the cheaper but totally effective version of my last manifold.
All right, so unfortunately the battery in my microphone died and I'm going to do this all with voiceover. All right, so what we're looking at here is the whole scope size-wise of where I'm going to be installing. That's the tape measure, and this is the general layout. So I've got the upflow side here, comes across to the cable glands that holds the EC and pH probes. Then I'm going to have the pH feeds here, and then 3 sets of nutrient access. I'm going to be working with a new nutrient set this season, and I have to have at least 5 active feeding feeds at any one time. So since the Growee comes in sets of 2, I'm doing 6, and then these little plugs here, this actually allows me to plug an unused port. So even though I'm going to be using 5, so we got 5 unplugged now, I'm going to install the whole 6, so if that need changes down the road, I can always add it on. It's just not going to be a big deal. And there we have what's going to be entering back into the reservoir, the return side. Okay, so I've got everything paired up here, and what we're going to be doing is taking these little tiny pieces of PVC and joining them together. There's no need to buy a joint, a coupler. This works perfectly fine, and when it's all sealed together, you can see it's a nice clean connection, and then everything from a piping standpoint is paired up with how I'm accessing it with the Growee system. So trying to keep for this whole general size, I'm going to put them together in pairs first, and then I'm going to adjust the sizing kind of in between to make the whole thing fits within my allotted space when I actually mount it. All right, so this is no different than gluing up PVC anywhere else. But if this is going to be your first time, a couple things to keep an eye on. Starting out here with primer. So I've already cleaned off all the PVC, but the primer makes the surface, it works like a degreaser. It gets gunk and grime off of it. So when we put the glue on, it's going onto as clean, as prepared a surface as possible. So here I am following up with the glue. So every side of what I'm gluing gets glue on it. So whether it's the elbow in that case there and the PVC joining it, just make sure that everything is thorough, that you're pushing them together, really giving them a good crimp down. That little twist, every time you see me joint, it's always being twisted. That helps make sure that the glue is smeared around so you don't have like one little passage where there's no glue. Take your time, be thorough. If you've got to recut a piece. This is where it's cheap and easy to put it all together. All right, so now we're all lined up and glued in parts. I've got the rest of my PVC here, and instead of worrying about precise measurement, I'm just going to do it on site. What you saw me doing there a second ago, just kind of lining up the pipe segment with the piece I'm connecting to, and then paying attention to where that shoulder is, where I know that the pipe can no longer go in further. That's really all that's going on here. Now, as I'm advancing down, trimming to length, you'll see me push down on the assembled pipe piece. The one place where you can kind of get into the weeds a little bit is when you connect a piece of pipe to the next segment. So like in this case, we're connecting the cable glands with where the pH feed is going to be. So there you go. See, I just pushed it down right there. And what we're doing is making sure that everything's pointing up at the same angle. And think of it kind of like a clock. So if you're looking at the hands of an analog clock and it's 12 noon, and then it's 12:02 in the afternoon, the minute hand's only gone a little bit around that circle. But if you think of the pipe parts, if they're all sticking up straight together, if you looked at, say, like the end of the pipe, if it's 12 noon, they all kind of hide behind each other. They're all in line. If it's 2 minutes afternoon, one's sticking off at an angle compared to the other. Now, as long as it's not a lot of rotation, it's not really a big deal. But if one's rotated a little bit one way, another piece is rotated a little bit the other, it could actually have them sticking out differently enough that it becomes difficult to mount to your wall. So, not saying these got to be perfect, but it is a pretty solid idea that as you go, just make sure that the parts that are sticking out from your manifold loop are actually sticking up at least in a similar direction. So when you go to mount it on your wall, you don't run into an issue of not having the clearance that you need. Oh, and there you go. That moment was worthwhile. I probably just retrimmed that little bit there. As you're double checking, this is your last moment really to make these as bang on perfect. And clearly I'm not worried about dribbling along the glue and the primer there, because you see all sorts of purple laying around. But if you have certain proximity needs in terms of lining things up, make sure you retrim before you glue up. Sometimes you can get it undone if you realize it fast enough, but take the extra time. Make sure you gain your dimensions the way that you want them, because you're going to be living with this thing for a little while. All right. Well, that's about it for assembly. Let's go mount it. Here's my section to mount things to, and look at that. That is where we're going to be lining up. So just make sure, again, this is a good place to check for your clearances, and this is how I'm mounting it. This is one of those little cheap spring clips you can get at pretty much any hardware store for hanging tools on the wall. Well, it holds 1/2-inch PVC pretty darn well. So I happen to have a couple of those sitting in the garage. And then I also, you'll see in a second, I'm going to use an EMT clip. So these are the little metal clips that you see on the wall holding metal conduit. It's called EMT. The abbreviation's escaping me. Anything like that that's designed for these 1/2-inch approximate spaces will work pretty well. I got to tell you, though, I really like how these tool spring clips worked out. It just snaps right in. We're not talking about a lot of weight here. You just have to kind of keep it from being floppy while it's on the wall. And here you go. You just kind of lift it up and push it in. And so one thing that's nice by me is that this is easy to reverse. Just move the clips. All right, so here's that EMT clip I was telling you about. These come in single and double screw kinds, so this one has screw holes on both sides. I'm just going to use the one. Again, this is something I had in my random parts drawer in the garage. But it certainly suits the need. And if you take a look here, the one thing you want to avoid is making sure that your exit, so it's the lower portion here, runs uphill at all. You want to make sure it's at least flat, which is, I double checked that before I started assembling, but try and avoid making it run uphill. Okay, so top is where we have to have our feed coming in. I've got a couple spare bits here because I need to make like a little zigzag of sorts. So there you go. See, that's that little zigzag. So basically I'm not running into the piece below. And a little pipe dope. You've seen this in other videos where I'm threading things. This is actually a really great application for pipe dope, and it shows off not just its need, but how it makes things easier. So just like any other time you're using pipe dope, get into your threads and then twist it up. The beauty with pipe dope is that you don't have to really crank down. Now, I'm definitely tightening this joint. With plastic threads, you have to be a little cautious. So if you've done a good job of getting that pipe dope getting that pipe dope pushed into those threads, you can thread it on and then not have to worry about tightening down. So if you need to be a couple degrees out of, I guess, what you would call totally secure, the pipe dope does fill the gaps. And since this is basically a zero pressure system, you don't have to have it reefed down. You just have to fill the gaps so no water dribbles out. We just thread in the other barb fitting here. And these usually do fit nice and flat very easily. But you can see I just went finger tight there. And it hasn't leaked a moment. So that's pretty much it. So it's coming up. It goes over, the flow goes over the cable glands. We've got that pH. And then the feed lines. And then exit back down. It really couldn't be more simple.
Well, there you have it. I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot easier than that. It was a pretty quick build, and it is working a charm in the greenhouse. So I hope that you found this helpful. I'm going to put links down to the parts below. Most of them are affiliate links, so if you choose to use one of my links to purchase your supplies, I get a small commission, and I really do deeply appreciate it. It goes a long way, it really does, to keeping this content going and being able to put me in the position to make more videos. So make sure that you're having fun, enjoy what you're doing, and don't forget to plant it all.